When you land long, bad things are going to happen.
An American Airlines 737-800 is approaching Jamaica in heavy rain showers.
We're not stopping, man!
Wind, heavy rain, visibility, and improper data all played a role in this event. American Airlines Flight 331, a routine nonstop flight from Miami to Kingston, Jamaica, left Miami normal. Little did the passengers know that this journey would end up in survival and lessons learned. As the flight headed over Cuba, they experienced moderate turbulence that was forecasted for the trip. The weather in Jamaica was deteriorating with heavy rain showers and thunderstorms in the area. As Flight 331 approached Kingston, the crew obtained the weather report. Winds were 320 degrees at 14 knots.
When you land or take off, you always want to land into the wind or take off into the wind, because what it's going to do is actually decrease runway distance on both takeoff and landing. When you land in a tailwind, what it does is pushes the actual aircraft, and it makes it pretty darn hard to stop, or it increases your braking distance, if that makes sense.
The flight crew continued for runway 12, which would put them in a tailwind. The crew wanted to know what the runway conditions were. They asked air traffic control what the conditions were on the runway, and were answered wet.
Braking action reports are really important to pilots. This tells the flight crew which numbers to put in their performance data. So we could have good, we could have poor braking, medium braking. Those three conditions will really give us the performance numbers to actually put into the calculations to really spit out our landing distance total. If you get the numbers wrong, or if you don't do it, how do you know what the aircraft is going to do? It could become problematic.
As air traffic control said wet, the crew assumed that the numbers were good using American Airlines advanced landing analysis. That was supposed to be based on worst case scenario braking action.
Advanced analysis assumes the worst case scenario. So they're going to have certain conditions with it. Poor braking at higher weights, and that will give them X amount of landing distance or runway. The problem is the crew assumed that the braking action was a different braking action than it actually was. They're assuming it was good, but it wasn't.
In a statement by American Airlines, they said that no American airline documents or training materials specifically defined the advanced analysis techniques.
Here you have a crew landing at night on a wet runway with a 15-knot tailwind and no real landing data. They're stacking the deck against them.
Under good braking, with a 15-knot tailwind, the total landing distance required is 8,013 feet. Runway 12 is 8,911 feet. However, usable landing distance is 7,889 feet. The calculated number using fair/medium, we get 8,874 feet. A 37-foot margin.
The issue is simply this. The landing distance beyond threshold is 7,889 feet, which means if you flew a perfect 3-degree glide slope, right, flare and landed at the 1,500-foot marker, you still didn't have enough runway to actually stop the aircraft. There's not enough real estate to stop. You're going to be over by about 1,400 feet or so. And that's pretty significant.
The captain held their speed at 148 knots until 70 feet above the start of the runway, or the beginning of the runway threshold. This was some 20 feet above the recommended height above threshold. At this point, the aircraft was doomed. The aircraft touched down 4,100 feet from the threshold, some 2,600 feet from the calculated landing distance, giving a total negative stopping margin of minus 4,063 feet.
As the investigation process progresses, you really want to hear good communication between the crew, or we call it good crew resource management, good communication with everybody inside, outside the airplane. You have air traffic control, maintenance maybe. You're always trying to get good teamwork going. The first officer really never called a missed approach or a go around. You never heard the first officer actually say those words, and they both knew they were landing long. So they were landing in a 15-knot tailwind with flaps 30. Again, what is the thought process here? I know why they didn't want to go flaps 40, but in this particular case, flaps 40 would help them actually slow the aircraft quicker. The problem here is I didn't hear in the transcripts, we didn't hear anything where the crew was stating where we're actually going to touch down at. There was no discussion on that. It was just Nothing. It was just a quick, brief thing, and that was it. Looking at this, it could point to possible fatigue issues. It's late at night. They're on their last leg. They already flew from Miami to Baltimore, Baltimore to Miami, and then they're going now from Miami to Kingston. I understand, and I know how it feels when you're there 8 hours. You're pushing eight and a half hours or so. You're tired. And so the whole talk of not missed approach, a missed approach would have meant we have to go to our alternate, which would be in Grand Cayman, I believe. And the Grand Cayman is another, 40, 50-minute flight or so, but timely land. And that's a long time. And, I think that's in the back of their mind, is that the crew didn't want to call a go-around, probably because they were tired.
The airplane broke in 3 sections and came to rest on the beach. To make matters worse, there was a GPS approach to runway 30, which when calculated would equate to 7,551 feet total stopping distance, giving the crew about 1,360 feet of margin with flaps 40 and max auto brake. Air traffic control did not suggest the runway 30 approach, and the crew did not know about it.
Here's the sad part, folks. This was completely preventable. From American Airlines not training the crews to actually use landing performance data, the flight crew not using actual landing data, to not looking at their approach options. That's another issue here. They had the GPS runway 30 in their possession. The flight crew also didn't look at all their approach options, which is another issue. The FO didn't call a go-around when he knew they were floating down the runway. The captain touched down at 4,100 feet down the runway, folks. It was doomed to fail. A couple of really good points here. One, touch down the right way. Know where you're going to land. Brief that well in advance before you actually get there. The second thing, know exactly what your landing performance is, or your numbers look like. It's important, even if it's dry, folks. Even if you have dry conditions, always a good idea to know exactly how much landing and how much runway or real estate you're going to need to stop the aircraft. The third or fourth thing, know what approaches are available to you, right? Can we fly a GPS to a different runway that we didn't know that was there? What are the terrains? Where's the threats? Always go over this stuff, and this should be done well in advance of the descent. I hope you enjoyed this. Smash that like button. We'll see you later.